Hello everybody, this is Bird Brain. We're here. We are nerdy for the birdies. The Philadelphia Eagles, for the first time in 20 years, have become a repeat NFC East champion. The Eagles defeated the Washington Commanders 29-18 and are now 10-5 on the season. And there's some interesting stuff to talk about from the game. I apologize for being a little late to react to this, but anyway, let's talk about it. Starting off with the offense, it was not a perfect day like, the week before against the Raiders where they just kind of went downfield and scored. And I think we all kind of agreed that the Raiders weren't that great, although the Raiders showed some resolve this week against the Texans, so it says something about them. But you compare the offense, it wasn't pretty, but they got the job done. And I feel like the offense was let down by other aspects of the team, and we'll talk about that when we get to it. But I thought the offense, for the most part, was fine. I do have one gripe, and I'll get to that in a second. Gotta congratulate Jalen Hurts, new career high in passing touchdowns. You have a tight end that in Dallas Goedert, who's now tied the tight end touchdown record for this team, and he has a chance to break that record next week. You've got two near 1,000-yard receivers in both A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. They're both close to getting into that conversation. I'm curious to see how that looks next week. And Saquon hit 1,000 yards this week, and look, the run game picked up a bit in this game. It looked a little better. It's still not what it was last year, but they're starting to get the bigger plays. They're starting to hit some explosives. And granted, some of this is playing a bad run defense, but it's not like you come up against the Bills. They're not a great run defense either. They've given up runs all year. You're going to play the Commanders again, although probably with backups at this point, because you can be no worse than the 4th seed and no better than the 1st. It technically, in terms of seeding, it's a little complicated. I mean, number 1 seed is pretty tough for us to get. We need a lot to go our way. Number 2 seed is somewhat likely, but you need, the Packers to win out and the Bears to lose out, basically, I think. I think the Packers need to lose one game, and the Bears need to lose out, which would be tough. In the 4th seed, if, the Panthers lose one more time, I think we're clinching the 3rd seed. So, we'll see what happens. My one gripe with the offense is that the lack of aggression at times with the play calling is a little annoying. You get the ball back with about 3-ish minutes left in the half, you have 2 timeouts, and you're just not really aggressive driving the ball downfield, and then you end up kicking a long field goal, and we'll talk about that fiasco in a minute. But it was just, I don't know. And then at the end of the game, I understand the explanation for why they did it, but going for 2 there in that spot, I don't know, it just felt a little gratuitous. I understand, it's the idea of, you want to prevent, any possible comeback, but it's 4.5 minutes left. They're on their 3rd-string quarterback. This game is over. We all knew the game was over. They might get 1 touchdown, which they did, and they got it with about a minute left, and they still needed to recover an onside kick, which they didn't. The Eagles put it away, so who cares? Anyway, so I didn't really agree with it. Crazy-ass fight, obviously. Thankfully, Tyler Steen did not get suspended this week. He'll be available for Buffalo. There were no suspensions from that fight. But all in all, not a terrible day out for the offense. It's good to see the run game continue to grow, and Jalen Hurts had a solid game in my opinion. I would say that much. Defensively, I think the defense had another great game in all honesty, and you're going to see 18 points. Of those 18 points off of 3 scoring drives for the Commanders in this game had 3 scoring drives. The first of which was they were literally spotted field goal range from something we'll talk about in a sec, and the defense held them in field goal range and they kicked a field goal. Then later on, because of other things that happened, they get a shorter field to work with, and that was their lone touchdown against the starting defense. And then their last touchdown came against the backup defense, where a lot of those yards came off of a PI from Keely Ringo, because of course it did. But the defense, continued to show out. Brandon Graham. I'm not convinced that Brandon Graham's just going to retire after this year. I think he's got something, especially moving into D-tackle occasionally. I think he's got some wiggle there and some power, and he's been really good at that the last couple of weeks. Curious to see how that continues to evolve. On the other side of things, you obviously have Cooper DeJean getting another pick. Great for him to kind of build that up a little bit. Quinion had another good game. And one other player who I'll talk about as player of the game had a really nice outing for the defense. We got to talk about special teams. This was not the special teams day, mainly because of 2 players. Will Shipley early on fumbles the opening kickoff, gives Washington a short field, and then later on I believe is the final drive out of in the first half. The ball goes into the end zone. He couldn't tell if he was in the end zone or not. He takes it out and he gets tackled at the 19, and he cost them about 15 yards of field position. It's just this, the mistakes there. I've seen people wanting Will Shipley benched, and I'm willing to overlook this because he hasn't really had these problems this year. He's actually been one of the better special teamers, better returners for this team. So I'm okay with it. Stuff happens. Guys have bad days. Hopefully he learns from it. The bigger concern to me on special teams is Jake Elliott, and we need to have a conversation about this. In 4 of the last 5 games, Jake Elliott has missed a kick of some kind, whether it's a field goal or an extra point. And last year he was having these problems, and then rumors came out, oh, he's injured, that's the problem. And then we looked at the draft, and the Eagles didn't sign any UDFA kickers or anything like that to, compete with Elliott. They brought in long snappers, so they thought, okay, maybe it's a long snapper issue. Well, are we sure it's a long snapper issue? Because the problem's still here. And in a league where, you got kickers regularly hitting from 60 yards, you can't be missing the 50-yarders and especially the 40-yarders. I mean, you missed technically 3 kicks. You get bailed out and then you miss another kick. And it's frustrating because, it felt like the special teams was not paying off what the offense was doing. Special teams had a better first half. The Eagles are up 13-7 at halftime. Instead, they're trailing 10-7. The offense gets going. They put up a couple of touchdown drives in the second half, and everything worked out okay. But it's a concern to think about. I mean, if you can't kick in Washington when the conditions are normal, next week I've been looking ahead at the weather. Lord knows what's going to happen in Buffalo, but it's going to be cold, windy, and probably snowy. So we'll see what happens there. But they got to figure that out. I don't know if Elliott's going to get replaced this year, but I would not be shocked if come draft time, one of the UDFAs the Eagles sign is a kicker and we have a competition in camp. I think it's the way to do this. That's 2 years in a row that your kicker is having issues, and I think you got to start investing resources because that's points it's costing you. In those 5 games that Jake Elliott has missed kicks, I think it's like 5 or so missed field goals and an extra point, and that's, 16 points worth of difference right there. And it completely changes the calculus of how you call games and so many other things. So it'll be interesting to see how the Eagles handle it down the stretch. But next week is Buffalo. So the big thing about this game for me, I expect starters will play, and I think they'll play the entire game. I think there'll be a little bit of a rotation at certain positions, especially like at running back. I don't think we're going to see Saquon get like 20-something carries. I think it'll be like a 15 to 20 carry day for him. Mix in a lot more Tank Bigsby to kind of maybe split the load half and half, so you can kind of start kind of resting Saquon a little bit, because the Bills game doesn't, winning out would get you the 1 seed, will give you a chance at the 1 seed, but it's going to be really, really tough to get. The 2 seed is also kind of out of your hands. I think you just need to win one more game, and I think the 3 seed is yours, if I'm not mistaken. So it's tough, it's tricky. I'm personally okay with the Eagles, just playing their starters, and I've heard rumors that even Lane and Carter will play, so I think that's fine. I think they can come in and play a little bit. Hopefully the Eagles, it'd be amazing. If the Eagles go into Buffalo and get another big fourth quarter lead, and they can pull their starters out, that'd be amazing, and I think I'd feel really good, because, they've won the last couple of games, but it's 2 bad teams that we need to see. This is your dress rehearsal game to see what this team's going to look like against a playoff team, because as of tonight, the Bills have clinched the playoffs. Anyway, for player of the game, I'm going to give it to Jordan Davis. I debated between him and Saquon a lot, but I'm giving it to Jordan Davis because he had a fantastic game. Just disruptive against the run, so many stuffs in the backfield. And we're finally getting the Jordan Davis that I think a lot of us envisioned when he was drafted. And the Eagles have already given him his 5th-year option, but they might have to start having a conversation about contract, because that man is playing at a really, really high level. And thankfully, and I've seen people talk about can we play Jordan Davis or Jalen Carter? Jordan Davis, because he's more of a nose tackle, will make significantly less than what Jalen Carter makes, because nose tackles aren't paid as highly, because it's more of a specialized role. But if he's doing this where, he's a good run defender, but he's also making plays as a pass rusher. He's tipping passes. He's blocking kicks. He's getting sacks. Like, he's having a really good season, and this is kind of what I was hoping he'd be as that first-round DT prospect. But anyway, we'll see what happens with him in the future. Anyways, this has been Bird Brain. Hope you guys enjoyed being nerdy today. Fly Eagles fly. See you around.